Welcome to the March meeting of Mecklenburg Audubon Society. I'm Steve Coggin, I'm the president. And next slide, please. Tonight, our meeting is centered on this photo exhibit. We have 10 of the winning pictures from the 2022 Audubon photo contest, where they had many thousands of submissions, and these were selected. And as you can see, they're spectacular images. We also have a guest speaker tonight, Vasto. He's a wildlife photographer. We had Frank here a minute ago.
He's already left. No.
Frank. And he's going to talk with you for a few minutes. And then we have some people that have brought their cameras with them, who are members of Mecklenburg Audubon and photograph birds, and they're willing to talk with you and share their experience and knowledge, and I think they'll even let you touch their cameras. Okay, next. In a little less than 3 weeks, we're going to send a delegation to Raleigh to lobby the state legislature for several bills that Audubon has identified that we have a chance of getting passed in this legislative session. And that is on March 22nd. And there's training to be had online on Zoom this coming Monday. So if you're interested in going, you need to sign up for the training and you need to sign up to go to Raleigh. And those things are on the state Audubon website. I am introducing Manisha.
You're in charge.
Manisha's in charge. She's the chair of the conservation committee, and she's heading up our delegation for Africa.
And everything he just said. Training, March 6th. Deadline to sign up for advocacy day is March 6th. And we're having an in-person meeting beforehand. That's Sunday, March 12th. And then join us in Raleigh on March 22nd.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Richard, would you like to introduce the walks? Okay. We have lots of bird walks. A couple this week, some more the next week. Just about every week we have 2 to 3 walks. You can sign up for the walks on the Mecklenburg Audubon website. And if you want to go on a walk, you need to contact the leader of the walk. And on this page, you can click on that and send an email to Judy and say, I'd like to go on the walk. And if the walk's not full, Judy will send you back an email saying you're confirmed for the walk. We limit the number of people on the walk, both for quality of bird watching and trying to prevent the spread of COVID. And if you sign up for a walk and you decide that you can't go, please contact the walk leader, because there's often a waiting list for these walks.
Also, could I put a plug in for the walk at Eastway Regional? That's actually within I know last month you heard about the North Carolina Atlas. That is a priority area, a priority block. It's also a very diverse area on the east side of town, off of Eastway and North Carolina together. So there is a small group of birders there that we will walk almost not every week, but about every other week or something like that. And they're going to be there as well. So it's kind of to get to meet some other folks. But certainly feel free to come and join us. We've got some folks already back.
Anything else? Oh, we have a nominating committee that is seeking new members to serve on the board. And if you have interest in that area, Chris Bowling is chair of the nominating committee.
Sorry.
Judy just mentioned the Eastway Regional Recreation Center. And after tonight, these photographs are going to go there and spend about a week on display at that recreation. So,
And, speaking of, I still need some volunteers for Wednesday, if anybody would like to join me.
yeah, we have volunteers, staffing and answering questions, greeting people. So we still need some people for Wednesday.
And that's, link to the website, contact me, just send me an email and the job. Okay,
And are you introducing Frank?
I guess so.
Okay.
But let me bring up his stuff first. And speaking of Eastway, back in January sometime, Alden, who was the naturalist there, called me and said, "Hey, will you come in and do a 15-minute bird talk?" They were having a bird party, and he invited several folks that he knew to come and give a presentation on something with birds. So I did something on woodpeckers, but about 45 minutes before I went over there, I was on our Google site or a Google Mail, and there's this email pops up from this guy. It says, "I'm a photographer." Okay. And I've just gotten into doing wildlife, and I was wondering if you would, you'd be interested in, having a presentation or something like that. I thought, well, since I was looking for somebody for this meeting, I thought, keep that in mind. So I get over to Eastwood, and Alden says, "Here's Frank Vasto." And I said, "I just got your email." And I met him, and he did a wonderful presentation. And it was very entertaining, and he does wonderful photos. And I think he has a fan here, and Natasha, from what I heard, that he's got a Facebook, and he actually does classes and so forth and so on. So he's worked with folks, from beginners all the way through. And he says he even knows how to take good pictures with an iPhone. So you might want to ask him about that. But this is Frank.
Good evening. Thank you, Jim, for
What else you do? And if you can kind of stay in front there, but you don't
Yes, I'll do my best.
don't worry about it. I want to see your slides more than they want to see you.
Yeah, they want to see my face.
But if you're you gotta make sure it goes in front of the camera.
See it over there?
Yeah, bring it in close, look at those. There you go.
I don't know how sharp the view is.
That was here.
Anyway, thanks again. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate that you're here. Yes, I'm a wildlife photographer. I'm actually a portrait and event photographer. But there's two things that I really love with. One of them is capturing the beauty of our wildlife. And there's so much of it around here. It's just amazing. I'm always amazed. I came from California where there was some good stuff around, but it was mostly housing over there. So in here, I just love living around this area because you can find so much. The second thing that I love to do is teaching photography, sharing what I know after all these years, and helping people, getting used to the cameras and everything else. I have a 5-hour class. The first part of the class, you learn how to move each and every button in your camera, which is one of the most important things. The second part is when you learn about speed, aperture, and ISO and everything else that you need to know to get the right picture for you to take the picture. You don't want your cameras are computers, and they can take their decent pictures. But you want to be the one that dictates everything when you're taking the pictures. When it comes to knowing that your equipment, you really need to know how to everything about your camera. Let me ask you a quick question here. Who knows what a diopter adjustment is in a camera? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Okay. most people that buy cameras don't read the manuals, so they find out, they come to my class and I tell them about the diopter adjustment, and they go, wow, that's a real clear picture. The diopter adjustment is located usually to the left or the right of the viewfinder. Okay, sometimes it's a little slide, and some cameras even have it inside. You have to open the camera to move it left and right. But basically, what you do with it, you know how when you use zoom lens, binoculars, you have to adjust it to your eyesight. It's the exact same thing. Okay, you adjust it to your eyesight because you don't want to be wearing lenses when you're taking pictures. So you adjust it to your eyesight, and then once you have set it, that's it. You don't have to do anything else. It's set to your eyesight. You'll be able to use it without having to use lenses or contact lenses or anything else. And you never have to change it again unless somebody else wants to use your camera, and then they're gonna have to adjust it to their own eyesight. Okay, but that's a very important thing that most people don't find out. The icon. Most people don't realize that the reason why it's nice and soft, okay, is because it's supposed to go right against your eye as you take the picture, creating a frame here that stops you from having movement in the camera. Okay.
You do it better with glasses.
I'm sorry.
Glasses in the icon.
Glasses in the icon?
Yeah.
You don't want to wear your glasses. You get rid of your glasses. Like I only, when I take my pictures, I never use my glasses. When I have to look at my picture, I have to put my glasses on. But you want to adjust your camera so you don't have to use your glasses at all. And you can do that. Okay. Your camera has all these little icons over here that you can see over here on the bottom. And then it has fully automatic, which basically your camera is taking the picture. You're not taking the picture. Program or priority move, same thing. You're basically not taking the picture. Your camera's taking the picture. S or TV, which is time priority or aperture priority. Those are the two settings that I use a lot. My go-to is of course manual. You want to shoot manual as much as you can, but there are certain times when you have to use aperture priority or time priority, depending if you're taking, I think, things like fast-going cars or birds flying, you know, and they're flying fast, and you want to use some of those settings. You want to be the quarterback in the camera. You want to be the one that dictates all your settings. For example, you know, how much light do I have over here right now? Okay, I need like maybe 4,000 ISO because it's a little dark. What speed do I need? You know, people aren't moving or anything, so I can.
No, go ahead.
So I can go maybe you know, 125, 200. And so you need to be the one that dictates everything, every setting on your camera before you take your picture. And what this is going to do is going to make you the person who's taking the picture rather than the camera. Okay.
I was trying to get rid of things.
Get rid of the things. Okay, that's fine. How do I hold my camera? How you hold your camera is very important because you want to make sure you don't have any movement. You can fix an underexposed picture. You can fix an overexposed picture, but you cannot fix a blurry picture. I have people that come in for wedding pictures and say, Frank, my pictures are blurry. Can you fix them? I say, no, you can't fix a blurry picture. Once they're blurry, that's it. But you can't fix them. So it's very important how you hold your camera, especially for wildlife. When I was out in the field, usually I try to do the frame, like I said, and you notice my strap, how short it is. There is a reason for that, because I'm pulling, as I'm holding my camera, I'm putting my face, my eye on the camera, and then see my arms how I tap them in. So this way, I can take my pictures, and the chances of movement are a lot less than if I wasn't holding that camera. When I'm out in the woods, I use trees. If I find a branch that's just sticking out perfectly for me, I put my camera on top of it. That helps me improve so my camera doesn't move. If I don't have a branch, I lean my camera against the tree and I hold them like this, and this also helps me. This helps me also to use lower speed. If I, as an animal, just sitting over there pretty, and I try to catch them doing something natural, like capturing a fish or something like that. And you can do it by, making sure you don't have any movement with the camera. Another thing that I do a lot is, that's why I have these things, I get down on my knees. And one of the main reasons why I get down on my knees is because the closer you are to eye level, the better picture capture you're gonna have of the wildlife you're shooting. I've seen people take pictures of their grandkids going like this, and the kids like this big, it's the same thing with wildlife. They're trying to take pictures of ducks and they just stand over there. You gotta go down, okay? And then you always use like your knee or something like that. Like I said, you can use a wall, a rock, whatever you want to help you stabilize the camera so you can get a good shot. When I do landscape, of course, I use it this way. When I do portrait, all I do is turn this way. Notice that my hand is holding the weight of the camera. And at the same time, it allows me to zoom in and out, which is the only thing that I need to do to change when taking my pictures. Okay. But you always want to make sure the camera is right on top of your phone. Okay, and this is for a portrait shot, landscape shot. Okay. And your feet stance also is very important. You want to make sure you put your feet that nicely in the ground so you don't have any. The best time for wildlife photography, a lot of you folks know that. It's very early in the morning. Most of the time I get up before the sun goes up. And by the time I get to the place that I'm going, I still have like 15-20 minutes to get ready, to get my camera ready, to get my settings ready. There's nothing worse than going out there and not having the proper settings to get the right picture. And then you get out there, you see something that you really want to take a picture, and you realize, oh, I don't have the right settings. You already lost the shot. So as soon as I think the first thing I do is I go in there, okay, depending on the light, I need this much ISO. I want to capture the subject and get blurry background. So, I want a low aperture. And, if it's in flight, of course, I want high speed. Anyway, I make all those decisions before I step into the area where I'm taking the pictures. But definitely early in the morning is the best time. That's when they slept all night. They're hungry. Also in the evening, you can get some activity too, but not as much. In my experience, the most action you get it early in the morning. Tools I recommend for photography. For wildlife photography, the minimum millimeters on a lens I recommend is 300. 300 millimeters is not going to break the bank, okay? But that's a good starter lens, and it'll get you close to certain subjects. But you have to do your part too. For example, if you see something, let's say a heron, that you want to get close to, one of the things you don't want to do is you want to just walk right up to the heron. You want to pretend he's not there. Whatever wildlife you have, just pretend it's not there. Kind of zigzag around it, and you're looking. They know when you're looking at them. They can feel when you're looking at it, and they'll use scared. So what I do is I just, like I said, I just pretend they're never there till I get to the right place. And most of the time, the right place is where I can see my shadow. If I have the sun in the back and I can see my shadow, I know that the light of the subject is going to be perfect lighting. If I don't see my shadow, that means I'm going to be taking a picture that it's not going to be as bright. Okay. As the sun rises, the light bounces all the way around everything. The leaves, the trunk of the trees, the roads, and everything else. And that is the perfect soft light that you can get that will give you a very nice picture. Also in cloudy days, if you're on a cloudy day, it's like having your very own softbox. And it's a great time to take pictures. By the way, how many of you heard of Frank Vasto before I get here today? Besides, one, two, just two people? Okay, four. You can, if you have the Nextdoor app, if you look for Frank Vasto, you'll be able to see all my pictures. So, but I've been putting pictures on Nextdoor for years. Other thing that I recommend strongly is that you have waterproof boots. Okay, when you walk in the mornings, most of the morning, there's a lot of water on the grass, on the leaves, and everything else. If you don't have waterproof shoes, you'll be walking around on wet socks, and you don't want to do that. Another one of my tools is this little guy's right here. I don't know, I think they're called bikers gloves. It's cold, of course. The ones that allow you to take your fingers out and then cover them because you get cold. These things are great during the winter. You know, keep your fingers nice and cold. And the best thing about it, going out in the morning, is you can put lots of layers. You can, if it's cold, you know, I always put extra layers. And then as it starts getting warmer, I just start peeling them off. But the more layers you have, the better. So you're nice and comfortable. I put this pictures as a sample. I was driving on the street and my daughter said, "Oh, look at that big bird." I didn't see it, but we were going to a park to take pictures. So I stopped. And as I was approaching, kind of, you know, you're not there. As I took a shot, and you can see the angle of the shot. My camera is up high, but once I was close enough to him where I could take a good picture, I went down on my knee, and you see the difference in angle. Now, the only bad thing about this, they were right in the neighborhood, so there were houses behind it. So I kind of moved around so I could center it behind the tree, which is very important for your pictures. You can have a great shot, but if you don't have a nice background, it's not as good. And sometimes all it takes is a little step to the left or a little step to the right, and you can get that branch of that object that's behind the bird or the subject, whatever it is, and it'll make it a much better picture. Some of the things that the mistakes that we made, I made, not enough practice. Sometimes I going out with people, you know, doing walks and things like that. And go, "Oh, there's a cardinal. Oh, I already have pictures of cardinal." Take as many pictures, even if you have the picture. Every time you take a shot, it's a good practice to try to capture that subject. Okay, so even if you have cardinals or hummingbirds, whatever, you already have some pictures there. Just keep on taking them, because as you keep on taking them, you're gonna get better and better. We don't get close enough to your subject. Yes, you have to try to get as close as you can. Even with these things, you don't want to get to the point that you're close enough that you're going to disturb the subject. But you know, you want to get as close as you can. And if you have a camera like this one that has like 45 megapixels, you don't have to get real close. So try to get one of those. Wrong exposure. Often people use the wrong exposure when they're taking the pictures. You can fix them if you're shooting RAW versus JPEG. But you know, it's very important, like I said, that you check your settings before you go anywhere. And then every 10-15 minutes, again, as the light changes, you have to check your settings again. You don't want to get caught with your pants down, excuse my language, but you don't want to get to the point where you check your settings like 15 minutes ago, you're walking around, you see this beautiful shot of a bird or deer, whatever. You try to go in and say, "Oh, that's the wrong setting." Then you have to start adjusting. While you're adjusting, whatever is out there is not going to say, "Hey, I went for you, take my picture." No, it's just going to fly away or move along, and you know. And then once again, the bad or busy background. You always make sure your background is nice. As you can see in most of these pictures, the backgrounds are pretty nice. Location, location, location. You have to have the right location for your picture. If you have an area where there is part shade and part sun, you're not going to get a good picture. You have to walk to a point where you get when you prefer the shade. You want to get with the subject is a complete shade. Because if you try to take a picture of something that's part shade, part sun, excuse me, my Spanish every once in a while jumps in. And you're not gonna get it. So the location where you take the picture of the subject is very important. Okay. What you focus on. When you look at your camera, most of the time, you have a bunch of little dots around. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with them. Okay, that's the automatic focus. What you want to use for great pictures, you have to use the center point focus, which is the strongest focus point in a camera, which is right here. So you set your camera where you can only see that one little shot, that little center point. And you point that thing to the subject that you're shooting. Okay, and you take the picture. Your big pictures are going to be much better. The only time you would use all those dots around there, if you're taking a picture of the bird in flight, because the center point focus, it's very hard for it to find the subject as they're flying. So you're better off using it. But that's the only time you would use it. Focusing on one third rules. Sorry. Okay, the way focus works is basically in this particular picture, I pointed to this guy right here, and because of the rule, the 1/3 rule, it was able to capture the one in the back and it still be on focus. Okay, the way focus works is 1/3 to the front and 2/3 to the back. If you look at this picture right here, if I was taking a picture of these three people right here, and I would focus on the person in the middle, what's going to happen is the person in the middle is going to be sharp, the person in the back is going to be sharp, and the person in the front is going to be blurry. Why? Because I set my focus on the wrong person. If I put it on the front person, like in the second one right there, okay, the first person is going to be in focus, the second person is going to be in focus, the third one is not going to be in focus because you're wasting the 1/3 up front focus area. So you're not going to. The best thing to do in this particular case is okay, I'm sorry. This one is focused in the center, and this is the right center. You focus right here. This one in front is fine, and then the one on the back is also focused. The one on the bottom is the one that's wrong, where you waste the focus over to the left. So that's how it works: 1/3 to the front and 2/3 to the back. Focus on recomposing. When I took this picture of the little guy, I was using a single point focus. And what I did, okay, so if I had my camera and I pointed it to him right now, can't do that here. We need TVs. The focus point would be right over here, someplace in the middle. And I would take a picture on his little mouth would be nice and sharp, and everything else would be very. When you're taking pictures of people, animals, birds, whatever, you want to focus on the eye. If the eye is sharp, nothing else matters. Okay, because that's where your eye safety when you look at the picture. If the eye is nice and sharp, you know, as long as you use the right aperture, you'll have a great picture. So what happens in this particular case, like I said, I focus on the eye, and then while still pressing the focus button, I move the camera to the frame that I wanted. And I wanted him having more space on the right than on the left because he's looking to the right. And that usually makes a better picture. So that's what focus and recomposing means. If I were to take a picture of Steve right here, okay, I would focus on his eye, then I would move the camera down to frame him from his waist to the top of his head. But if I just pointed the camera at him and shoot, that means the focus point is gonna be in the middle, that means this button is gonna be, and sure it's gonna be very sharp. So that's where how you use, that's where you have to use focus and recompose. Very important. This is another sample of focus and recomposing. This little mourning dove, she just stood over there and she wasn't gonna give in. She just flopped up and said, "You're not kicking me out of here." Finally, the blue jay flew away. But if you can see, if I would have taken up the camera and pointed at them, the focus point would have been up in the middle, someplace around here. That means nothing was going to be in focus. I made sure that the mourning dove was focused, and the blue jay, you can see, is even a little blurry because he was getting close to the out of the focus point. That's another sample of focus and recomposing. This is another one. If I were to just point the camera and take the picture of this here, right in the middle, like right about here, is where the focus point would be. So that means his side would be nice and sharp, but his eyes and his head wouldn't be. So I focus on the eye, I recompose the frame to where I wanted to take a picture, and then I took the picture. Selecting focus points. One shot focus is a setting in your camera that you want to use when you're taking a picture of something that's not moving. Like in this particular case, this bird was just sitting over. I used one shot focus. And I just pointed at the bird, fix it on his eye, then I recompose it, then I took the shot. There's three choices that you have. You can see. AI circle or continuous and Nikon. This is when you focus on a subject that you know it's going to move. So you keep, when you focus on it and you keep the button pressed, and as the bird moves or the subject moves, the camera will follow the focus, refocus on the subject that's moving. So this is the type of setting you want to use, like these little guys, because they are fast. They never stop too. They keep on moving. And then there's many other things that just move around a lot. So, and then if you have something like this one right here, like this camera, there is the eye detection now, where the camera is going to try to find the eye of the subject, whatever it is. If it's a person, an animal, it's a great setting. It's a great advance because even if it doesn't find the eye, it will hit the subject, you know, and you can get some great shots. If you combine other settings, this one here, you can get some in shots, amazing shots. Okay, once again, taking pictures in manual is best, but every once in a while, you're gonna want to shoot aperture priority. What aperture priority means, you're gonna set the aperture on your picture where you're gonna make sure the subject is nice and sharp, and the background is gonna be blurry, completely blurry, disappear, or you're gonna take the picture of the subject, and everything else is gonna be sharp too, based on the aperture that you use. Okay, like if you're gonna take pictures of a single bird, my recommendation is 2.8, which, you know, that's about the best I have when it comes to the cameras. The 2.8 aperture, that's aperture that is gonna let me take a picture like this one. As you can see, there's a tree behind the bird, but you can't see it because I use such a low aperture. The tree and everything else back there disappear. Okay, so it's good to use things like this at certain times. You don't always have to shoot manual. A lot of people say, "Oh, you don't shoot manual, you're not a photographer." I use the tool, I use the camera because it's a computer, and I just, you know, use the best of my ability. Time priority or shooter priority is when your main concern, the subject is moving. If you're taking pictures of a person running on a 5K, if you're taking pictures of a car race, NASCAR, if you're taking pictures of a blue heron flying across, you want it to be what's the most important thing? The speed, because you want to stop the action. Okay, so when you use time priority, it allows you to take lots of pictures, and they're all gonna have the same speed. You're gonna get some great captures. Another advantage of using this two things, two modes, the temporary and sheer priority. For example, if you're taking a lake and there's a dark area and then there's a light area over there, as you start taking the picture, the bird starts flying, it will adjust once it gets to the light area. Okay, so that's a great tool to use. If you were shooting manual, you can't just like say, okay, wait, it's going dark. Hey, stop! You know, let me change my setting and take a picture. So you can't do that when you're shooting manual. So you have to take advantage of those two extra tools that the camera has. Exposure compensation. Exposure compensation is not a regular focus compensation. It's the only can only be used when you use aperture priority or time priority. When you're shooting manual, you are the exposure compensation. You actually determine, you know, how much light and how much darkness you need. And it also lets you put, let's say, if you know you're going to be going to an area that's a little dark. So you put the setting on the camera where aperture priority, time priority, you put a setting to make the picture lighter, and then all the pictures will be lighter. Or there's too much light, you can make them a little darker. Exposure compensation is a great tool to use with your cameras, but like I said, it can only be used with aperture priority or time priority. And those are two settings you have in the camera. These are the recommendations that I always give out to people when they ask me, you know, what aperture should I use? If you have one subject, you have a lens that shoots 2.8, that should go to aperture. If you have 2, 4.0, 3 subjects, 5.6, 4 more, 8 to 11. Around 9 is the sharpest point, according to what I read so far. So I try to use between 9 and 11 when I'm taking pictures of mountains and things like that. But so those are the numbers that I recommend for using aperture users. Handheld. Handheld is great because it lets you have a lot of freedom when it comes to moving around and taking shots of different angles, going up and down and things like that. A tripod, it's great, especially because it helps you. You don't have to, you can use the slower speeds, and they have one of those little guys right here. You're not going to get tired when you're taking your pictures. They're great for wildlife photography. You don't have to, this is heavy, trust me. So with this thing right here, I'm not using any weight whatsoever. And it's very easy. Okay. Start. Panning. Anybody know what panning is? Panning is what you do when you're taking pictures. You just follow, you know, the subject with your camera. One more thing that I was talking about is RAW versus JPEG. How many of you folks are familiar with RAW? If you are interested in wildlife photography, you need to shoot RAW, not JPEG. JPEG is a compressed file. The RAW file, it's a higher quality file, and you can do a lot of work to it. The difference between a RAW file and a JPEG file, the JPEG file has 356 levels of brightness, and it's a compressed file. So you can't do too much, you can't edit it too much. A RAW file has between 4,000 to 16,000 levels of brightness. So you can see the difference between RAW versus JPEG. The only difference is your largest, the files are very large, so you never want to put them in. Okay, that's about it. Any questions? No questions? Yes. Do you use the histogram? No, you know, this is my histogram. I look at my picture, you know, and of course, I never pay too much attention to the little file here until I get to my computer, because I mean, you can get a pretty good idea of what you shot. But once you get to your computer and see the picture itself, then, that's my best histogram for me, If I look at the histogram, depending on the lighting, it just varies so much, so I don't pay much attention to it.
I want to explain what histogram is.
I'm sorry?
Explain what a histogram is.
A histogram, it shows the different brightness and colors on your picture, and it is a chart where it has two areas, dark and light. And, it'll tell you sometimes, your picture's too dark, too bright, too dark, or too bright. And sometimes it'll even flash saying you lost some of the detail on your picture. So, and it's a setting on your camera. You can set it and you can see it all the time. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
So this roller for the camera to.
It's a setting on your camera. Yes. It's like I said, everybody should stay big. And then it's just convenient. You want to put them on Facebook, you want them Instagram, whatever. Shoot a JPEG files, you can press file, easy. A raw file is what it says. It's a raw file. It cannot be read unless you have a program like Lightroom or Photoshop that will let you see the picture, because it's a humongous file. And once you put it in a Lightroom, we'll open it up for you to view. One thing,
I have a Canon, T7. When I try to manually focus it, I can't get it. When I put the lens on the manual focus block, I can't get it to focus. I have to go to automatic, get a focus. And then when I come back and put it on manual, I can get a focus. Is there?
okay, you're talking about the lens setting, right?
The lens set.
Okay, the lens setting it has manual or automatic. Okay, that has nothing to do with the camera, so that's just the lens. So if you shoot it on manual, you have to manually adjust the focus. If you put it on automatic, the camera combined with the lens will focus on the subject.
I understand.
Yes.
But suppose I just turn my camera on and I put it on manual focus. Okay, I can't get a focus. I have to then go to automatic.
Okay, what kind of lens are you using?
Well, I've got Canon lenses. I've got 18 to 55, and I've got a 75 to 300.
Okay, if you are shooting focusing manually, it doesn't matter how close or how far you are, you should be able to focus manually.
I want to do it.
Okay, we'll do it. Okay.
What kind of shutter speed, if you want to see a bird flying, what do you call your shutter speed? You got to quickly like, put you over the shutter speed and catch it. What kind of speed you can use on?
Well, it really depends on how much light you have also. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, I have a chart with recommended speeds for hummingbirds, like 8,000 speed, things like that. But it only works if you have the right amount of light.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's early in the morning and something's flying and you want at least, 1,000, 2,000 a second, but you can't get it because you don't have enough light. So you just gotta do the best you can.
We usually have to do it quickly, so you don't have time to go through things.
Right.
I like to keep it on sort of a basic.
Yeah. Well, if you're taking pictures of birds flying, like I said, time priority would be a good choice for you because you just set the time, whatever speed you want, and you just use it.
Have you used all that ISO?
I don't use it. You can use it as long as you set a range. Like, don't go below 3,000, 4,000, but I don't use it. I like to set my ISO, I look, and that's what I use. Somebody else?
I heard you mention that F9 might be the sharpest aperture. Is that because of overdrive?
I'm not sure, or to be honest with you, but it seems to do the best job for me. I do a lot of art pictures that I think and I shoot on an H9, F9. Also, when I shoot my mouse, I try to shoot up. It seems to work. I read some places that's supposed to be the sharpest. You can never touch that person.
All right, you still continue to ask, Frank, some questions, but we have a couple of, visitors. Has this camera here? Natasha has hers, and hers is that new, mirrorless. That, you know, Rich camera, and the new. He's been doing well. He brought a couple of his family. And he's in there, somewhere up here. So, we still have some food back there. Please take some food. Otherwise, I get it all, and I can't eat it all. Thank you for coming. Again, if you're interested in helping out on Wednesday at, the, rec center that we have, you can help up there. More food, more, we're going to be trying to still low key, flexible, we'll need to start passing out the age or whatever. So we get it down, but it's more time to, if there's.
They did you.
Right.
Presentation, so for.
Yes.